Mona Lisa Joshi. I'm the founder and director of a contemporary publishing house called Chrysanthemum Chronicles, and this is my talk show called Mona Lisa's Talk Show. And I have another interesting guest with me, and I'm very excited to talk to him. He is none other than the most acclaimed Indian contemporary horror writers, Neil De Silva. And Neil, welcome to the talk show. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me on your show, Mona Lisa. This is wonderful. I always like to talk about my genre, that is horror. And when people like you are kind enough to have me on your show, it's always a great opportunity to connect with more readers, more people, and the whole idea exchange thing. It's fantastic. Looking forward
That's
to a
true.
great talk. Yeah.
Absolutely. So before I start, I really want to know that, like, how was your day? And like you were running errands and all, and then you have to juggle a lot of, doing these interviews, these sessions. So was it like tiring for you?
While writing, you mean how I manage my time?
Yeah, of course,
Yes.
writing and then doing so many live sessions and everything.
Yes. Because there's a sound disturbance here outside for a while, so I did not get that question. But fine. So the thing is, writing takes its own time. I do a lot of things that are apart from writing also. So the bulk of my work is, of course, writing novels. I'm writing for web series also now, so that is also an added kind of and a big responsibility that I have. Plus, I am a lot into fitness, so again, that takes a lot of my time as well. But these are the things that I believe one needs to do in order to survive. So, somebody had asked me, like, how do you manage your time? So I say that, see, we have to invest in ourselves, and we have to make ourselves grow because nobody else is going to do that for us. So, while writing feeds my soul, it helps my brain. Fitness is something that feeds my body. So I need to have this complete balance of mind and body. And for that, I need to make time. I cannot make excuses. Apart from that, I have a family, so obviously there are obligations. Somewhere it's said that writers don't get the time enough to work, and also, but I think if you really want to do it, you will find your time and you will manage it somehow. So I'm not a very disciplined writer, as you may see. I mean, I don't have uh, a time that this time I have to sit down at my desk only and I have to write for so many hours. So I keep my day very flexible. I write when inspiration strikes me. So if that is in the early morning, or if that is in the afternoon, or if that is in the night, I don't care. When I get an idea, then I need to just write it, and that's my day. That's basically my day.
And talking about fitness, I really want to know that why this sudden transition, enlightenment came to you that you have to become fit. Because I feel that whether you have this thought कि अरे कोई पीछे that भूत पिशाच चुड़ैल and I can run faster.
Yeah. That's what my running friends also tease me about. कि ये तो भूतों से भागने के लिए ही भाग रहा है कहीं के. But the thing is, it happened during the. I was always a person keen on fitness, but when my children were very young, my wife is a working wife, and I'm the person who sits at home and writes. So I was the one who was looking after the children when they were growing up, and it was a lot of responsibility, and I could not go to the gym, or my mornings were not my own. You know how it is. So I put on a lot of weight, and I became quite unfit because our job also, Mona Lisa, it's a sitting job. So sitting in one place writing, so that gave me a kind of lifestyle that I did not want. Then what happened is we had the pandemic years, the COVID years. And during that time, everybody was at home. My wife, who's a teacher, my children, who are students, they were all at home. And but we could not go out of the house. So once again, that whole thing, it clouded me. I could not even at times when I would sit on this chair, I would not feel like getting out of it. So I was hooked on to bad food, junk food packets, and so many things. Then I started getting these chest pains. I started getting a backache which would not go. Uh, I was scared, of course, and this was also the pandemic period, as I told you. So then I had a trip to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist he checked me, and I was very scared that day. No horror novel can scare you as much as in you're sitting in that waiting room outside a cardio's office. So, but he told me that see, this is your heart is okay, your weight is very bad, but your heart is okay, and your BP might be going high, so you have to take care of your body. He told me that. He told that you have to first reduce your weight because otherwise this is going to take a toll on everything that you are doing. He was a much senior person. So he told me that these so and so tests, you get them done and you come back to me. So that day when I came home, I thought कि ये क्या हो रहा है? Like I was a fit person and suddenly now I'm at, and my age that time was just 44, 45. I was thinking like, what is this? Which side am I going on? So I thought that I don't want this and I want to take stock of my situation. So that day itself, I decided to work out. But again, it was COVID period, the pandemic period, so we could not go out. Gyms were all closed. So I started working out at home itself. I built a kind of a gym inside my house, and I used to watch these videos on YouTube. And watching those videos, I just worked along with them. It was like this watching it looks funny sometimes, but I used to do that in the privacy of my room. And you won't believe me, from the first week itself, I started seeing the results because you start losing your water weight and all. And I resolved that I have to tighten my diet. So I did that and I started working out. As soon as the pandemic was released, I started going out for walks, which slowly graduated to runs. And today, like 3 years later, I'm running half marathons. I'm probably going to run a marathon next year. So it really just took on, something somewhere just clicked, snapped that. And there was one more aspect to this, which I realized later. See, I was writing horror. I started writing horror in 2015, and that took on. My books became bestsellers, and I got a lot of movie projects, film series also, which I'm writing now and stuff. So writing horror now and reading about it and researching about it. You're reading about Bhoot, Pishach, Chudel, Betal, all these things all day and day out. You're reading about it. That affects you. That negativity starts seeping into you somewhere. And all this paranormal talk, it was also getting to me. And then I thought, maybe it is because of this also. Because if you are inviting so much negativity in your life, then that's again something that I had to control. So I thought that I need a balance and a counterbalance kind of system. So if I am willingly into this profession where I have to deal with ghosts and spirits and negativity all through my life, I need something that is very positive also. And what can be more positive than going out at 5 in the morning when the sun is rising, you are running and you are smelling the beautiful smells of nature, some bad smells also, but we'll not talk about that. And it's all these people that you meet when you're running, they are also positive minded. Everybody wants to run, improve their lives, have a nice start to the day. It's so much positive energy. So I found my balance. So, the negativity throughout the day when I'm writing, but those couple of hours when I'm running, I'm completely filled with all positive thoughts. That's how I took stock of the situation.
Wonderful. And I was listening one of your interviews where you were saying that for writing, you are not able to write at home. You need a secluded place. You go to some remote place and there you write. So is it because of the reason that you try to experience that kind of vibe there? What you are writing, like any paranormal activity or anything that has happened there, and you want to explore it more, research it more for that reason only?
It is that, see, when you are writing any genre, I believe that you have to give it your 100%. Like people who write romance novels, they have gone through those situations in life which make them so wonderful romance authors, right? That we know about. If you want to write anything, even crime thriller, then maybe you are in the world of crime, you have done your research, and you have gone through that situation. So I know people who write crime and mystery and thrillers. Now, for me, I was writing horror. Now, if I have to write horror, then I have to have those experiences. I need to be on the precipice of fear to understand what it is and then to explain it justifiably in my books, right? So I can't do this at home. Now at home, I live in Mumbai and I live in a very, very, very busy neighborhood where there is all the time you can see some or the other music or sound of traffic or something or the other is going on. So I could not after a particular point, I can't take my mind to that level, to that dimension from where I want to bring the Bhoot Pishach into my books. So I made this kind of a habit. You can say every author has their quirks, right? So I made this habit of trying to travel more. After my children grew up, I started doing that. I started doing that, I think, in 2016 onwards, from my book Pishach. Pishach was one of my first books that I wrote when I was traveling. And then right behind you, I wrote in the waiting room of a railway platform, one of the stories. So I've got such beautiful stories to share. So I decided this that I'll go out, and now what I do is I don't go out all the time because you can't, it's not feasible. But I go out when I have to outline my book and plot my story. So what I do is I check out on Make My Trip first, and I find locations that have some kind of haunted, uh, some reputation around them. So I find these locations and I book a place somewhere around. And I don't want a big hotel. I do not want a lavish, luxurious place because that I can't write horror there, right? I want to have a kind of a the kind of havelis that you saw in the Ramayana. Those are my havelis. So it has to be some kind of spooky place, a desolate kind of, not very desolate also, but an isolated kind of small town which has a lot of history, stuff like that. So I head out there and I try to be in the hotel room only. I don't come out also much, and that is where I outline all my plots. And I've had some such crazy experiences, mind bending stuff, that when you write in these hotel rooms also, because you are writing so passionately about things like Vashikaran and all this kind of stuff, and you're writing alone in the dead of the night, you experience certain things also. Of course, these are all mental stuff. Like I have seen shadow people, I have seen uh, like illusions, hallucinations. I've had them all. Sleep paralysis episodes, which is also what I keep having now also. And at one time, I had an out of body experience. So all this horrible stuff keeps happening when you write. So yes, this is my pattern now. I want to experience this stuff so that I can write it symptomatically in my books. Otherwise, it would be superficial writing, won't it?
Okay. And now, like you're saying that you experience, stuff like that, like sleep paralysis. I'll come to that because I have a lot many things to ask. So, does this phase last only till the time you're writing, or it happens afterward also? Like I've read somewhere that Stephen King still sleeps with all his lights on.
Right.
He still can't sleep with lights out. So, do you have that kind of like fear also?
Do you know that Stephen King was also a runner and a walker in his time? He used to do a lot of physical activity also. Then he had a very bad accident, and he could not pursue fitness a lot. So a lot of us authors who write dark stuff, we try to find a place where we can vent out. Like there is even Murakami, who is a marathoner, Haruki Murakami, right? So all we have to find our own solution to these things. Now, coming to your question, like how it is to, how do you purge yourself from a book? So my first book, I'll explain this anecdotally. So my first book was Maya's New Husband. Now in Maya's New Husband, I wrote very dark stuff, very dark. Those who have read it, they know that Maya's New Husband is kind of the pinnacle of horror writing. You have cannibalism in it, you have the agories in it, and it's very, 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 very dark. So when I used to write Maya's New Husband, I will tell you that there were times when I could not continue the scene because I'm a very visual writer. I write books like one would write screenplays.
Okay.
So I need to close my eyes and I need to visualize the scene. I want to actually see things happening in front of my eyes. So when I was writing Maya's New Husband and I was writing the scenes of Bhaskar Sadachari, uh,
Hmm.
praying, feasting on his victims, it got
Okay.
to me so bad that there were days when I had to just shut the computer and go to sleep and continue the scene in the mornings. So it was that bad. That stayed with me for 20 to 23 days, which was the length of time I took to write the first draft of Maya's New Husband. It was a pretty difficult time for me. I was in a very dark place, and I was willingly in that dark place because I wanted to write a novel which would shake people when they read it. I wanted something like that. So I willingly dived into that well and I pulled out that monster called as Maya's New Husband. But after that, I needed to purge myself out of it. I needed to get out of it. And for that, I took a break, like kind of, I stopped writing for a while and I wrote some simpler stuff. Like I wrote a book on the Nimbu Mirchi charm, that is the evil eye and the charm. And that book was fun stories, more about superstition and all. So what happened is it was still horror, but it was a kind of a
Hmm.
fun, entertaining horror. So I did not go in that dark space of Maya's New Husband again. Then I wrote a book on twisted love stories, bound in love. So, I'm talking about way back in 2015.
Hmm.
Then again, I went into a dark area when I was writing Pishach, which was in 2017. So
Okay.
when I wrote Pishach again, it is very, very dark, but it is a love story. So, there was a kind of a balance again that I found there. Then afterwards, Yakshini was pretty bad because bad in the sense it was again a gut wrenching experience because Yakshini is essentially a tragedy. It is one of my best selling books, like the book that has really done uh, that really brings me a lot of positive reviews till today. So, what I mean to say is when I write these negative, very, very, very dark subjects, I don't write them all the time consistently. Maybe once a year, I'll write one book that is very dark, and that would take me around a
Hmm.
month or something. But after that is done, I will write light stuff. Now I'm also writing children's fiction, children's horror, like Playthings, which again is
Hmm.
I love that experience because we are writing for children, so it's a kind of a nice cathartic experience for me within the ambit of writing
Hmm.
horror. So it's fun. That's the way I
Okay.
work. I don't deal with dark subjects all the time. That would be impossible.
All the time. Okay. And talking about Maya's New Husband, you have mentioned that you have written a lot about Indian aghorism. So I really want to know that did you really went that close to see them actually, doing those rituals, or was it all research based, your knowledge and facts that you've used?
Both ways. So the thing is, when I started writing Maya's New Husband, I already had a pretty good knowledge about how the agora culture works.
Okay.
I have been reading about it since many, many years. I mean, even before the internet times, you will not believe me.
Okay.
There was this one show on Doordarshan way back in the 90s called as Aghori, where the main Aghori was Chandilya Nath, and it was a very dark horror show on Doordarshan. It used to come at 10 in the night. So from that time onwards, I was a child at that time, teenager. So from that time, I was hooked on to who are these Aghoris. On one hand, they are devotees of Lord Shiva, but on the other hand, they are so mystical. Like, why are people scared of somebody who is, after all, a devotee, kind of a kind of a sadhu only, right? So that
Hmm.
was really fascinating to me because as a character, also, if you see Aghoris, they are very fabulous. Like they have so many dimensions to their character. So I started reading more about it, and I started reading some books which I could find at that time about what Aghoris are. uh, I traveled a little bit, to places like Banaras and all. And whenever I went there, I never met Aghoris. Okay, so but there was so much talk. If you go to Kashi, you will always, I mean, invariably you'll hear about things like Aghoris and all. So these people are so omniscient over there that people are going to talk about it, and then the stories filter on. And this was a subject that stayed on in my mind. So when I eventually decided to write my first novel, that is in 2015, as I have already established. So the subject became of the Aghora, but I did not want to write a documentary film, right? So I wanted to intersperse it with a story, and that is how Maya's new husband was born. Uh, while writing the book, I wrote it in the form of a story outline, but I needed a lot of references. So then I started looking for people who knew Agoris so that maybe I could meet them or I could talk to them. So whoever I went to, in this regard, they told me they will not meet you, and
Yeah, they
they
don't
will
meet.
not meet anybody if you are going to write a book on them or something like that. And even if you get to meet them, you will have to do things that you will not believe that you have to do. Like in a way, they will torture you to give you information. So it's like you can't really meet them, and that experience is not worth it. So, but they
Hmm.
told, and I'm talking about many people that I met, 4 5 people that I met. They
Okay.
told me that we can share experiences which we have. So that is how I got some second hand information, not first hand. So I could not actually meet an
Right.
Agori, but I had some information from people who had, and these became scenes in my book. Like there is
Okay.
one scene in my book where a girl goes to the actual story was of a girl, my friend. She went to a jungle, a forest, for trekking, and in the night, she and her friend both were stuck. So they thought, now we did not find a way out. So in the night, it is not advisable to stay on the ground, especially because it's a predatory jungle, right? So I mean, animals, wild animals. So what they did is they went up on a tree and they sat there for the night, full night. And when they were
Okay.
sitting on the tree, far away in the distance, in the middle of the night, there was this one glow that they saw. Like something
Okay.
is, they got scared, like, what is happening, because forest fires are also common. So
Hmm.
they wanted to see. So one of them had that kind binoculars. So she put the binocular and she saw, of course, in the night you can't see very well, but she saw that it was a fire, a bonfire kind of thing. And around that, there were some
Hmm.
people sitting, and she
Okay.
was really scared that what was those people and who were they. They were chanting something, and all those kinds of things were happening. They stayed there full night. Then in the daytime, when those people went, they came back and they saw all these skulls and some kind of meat morsels and all that, and even dogs were there. And those people were aghuris, of course. They were sitting there in the middle of the night and they were eating something which nobody knows what they ate, but there was human bones and all were found in that location. So later on, they came to know that this place is where the aghuris come in the night. So it was a really scary experience, which I included in the book as well. So that
So
kind
it's
of thing.
sounding more like a witch kind of culture also, that that is believed to exist in the West. People do believe that witches are there, and they exist in forest and they feast
And
on
I don't know
human
if we
flesh.
should call it that. Yeah, it is a kind of mystic occultism for sure. But calling, I mean, it wouldn't be witchcraft. It's not witchcraft. It's a kind of devotion. It is
Yeah.
again a bhakti only. It's a bhakti. It's a bhakti of Lord Shiva. And more you understand about Aghoris, you understand that their ideology also somewhere makes sense. So see, there
Okay.
is this whole thing that they stay in the Shamshan Ghat, right? And they wear only the
Hmm.
kapda that they wear. That's all the dead bodies ka kapda. It's not their own clothes that they wear. They eat also from skulls, and drink from skulls. So whatever, and there are certain things about Aghoris which are completely like not to be spoken about aloud. Like certain sects within the Aghorism, they even practice cannibalism. Like but not of they don't kill people. Like it's not like that. But for of people who are already dead, corpses. They do eat, consume the flesh of corpses. So all this was really like shocking. But then when I started reading more, understanding more, I saw that one belief exists among the Aghorism that everything that the universe has created, everything that Brahma has created, that includes human flesh, it's holy because we have all come from the divine. So we are all holy. So wasting away the flesh is something that is a kind of an insult to the universe because you are born from the universe. And that is the reason they consume uh, human remnants just as a token or a gesture
Okay.
of appreciating what the divinity has created. It's a deep logic,
Okay.
I am not sitting here on judgment to say that this is good or this is bad or whatever, but it is the belief that the Agora gives.
And Neil, is it like agorism and tantrism is similar, or these are two different kind of sects?
Good question. Good question. If you go deeper into this to understand it, you will understand that agorism, despite all the scare, all the fear that is around it, there is a lot of positivity in it also. Because of all this, they get a lot of austere powers. They might be able to heal, that's the claim, spiritual healing and all. This all is something that happens within the Agori culture. But Tantrism or Tantrikism, whatever the noun form of that would be, is
Okay.
not like that. It is more on the negative side. That is
Okay.
more about possessing spirits to do your bidding or something like that. And the moment you are trying to invoke the other side, the dark side, the dark forces of nature, that is where you're already going wrong. That is where you're already overstepping that boundary that has been created. So,
Okay.
tantric culture is more about, uh, trying to harness the black powers. Now, that is more about witchcraft, which you just spoke about.
Okay. Okay.
Agorism would be more
Yeah.
positive, but tantric culture is
Hmm.
more about a kind of a blatant witchcraft that we do, and that is why the tantrics are considered to be, not good type.
Okay.
Yeah.
But its practice begins similarly, right? From
Yes. Yes.
agorism only, I guess.
Yes. The practice
Okay.
begins similarly, but then that is a branch that goes more into the negative side of it. See, if you are trying to
Okay.
learn what is all this about, occultism at the
Hmm.
very essence of it is about trying to control the elements of nature. So we were all
Okay.
pagans at a time. We worshipped the forces of nature. We started from there. Gave names like gods later on in our civilization. But our
Hmm.
worship began by worshipping the sun, the moon, the river. So we have always, as a human civilization, and I'm not only talking about Hinduism, I'm talking about civilizations across the world, we have always tried to control nature, even beautifully shown in the movie Kantara right now, recently. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have tried to always do that, control the forces of nature. Now, some of these people, now see, there were various sects within this. So some people want to control everybody wants to control the forces of nature, but the motives are different. Some want to do it for positive reasons, some want to do it for self gain. When you are doing it for self gain, that is where the tantrics come in, the witches come in. Okay, that is what happens. And again, in witches also there were positive and negative witches. Huh? Even that I'll
Okay.
tell you. So there are sub branches of everything.
Hmm.
So that is basically what it is. So it is
So
like what is the motive? Yeah,
yeah. So summing up, we can say that good and bad is in the both of the practices. It's only how people choose the way they want to go ahead,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely, and
Okay.
that is why stories are formed. If you want to
Hmm.
create stories as a, even generally speaking, as a story writer, not as a person with knowledge of occult practices, even generally speaking, you need stories with characters who are unpredictable, and that is where a character like an Aguri would fascinate me, or a character like Yakshini, which is again a very unpredictable entity in themselves. So that's how.
Yakshini is a female kind of ghost. What exactly it is?
I'll give you a context. So, what happens in Yakshinis, when I was writing about Yakshini, again, there are several types of Yakshinis. And there's a lot of lore about it, and there
Okay.
is a lot of contradictory lore, like some people. So, after reading a lot, I came to one common thread, and that is what I'll tell you. So, Yakshinis are considered to be demigoddesses. That means
Okay.
they are somewhere above humans, but they are below the gods in status.
Okay.
So they are
Hmm.
demigods, Yakshinis, Gandharvas, these are all demigods. And it is
Okay.
believed that Yakshinis stay in one place in the Himalayas. In the Himalayas,
Okay.
there is this one kingdom which is called Alkapuri. So in Alkapuri, that is where all these Yakshinis stay. Yakshini, Gandharva, all these creatures, they stay there. And the king of Alkapuri is Kuber. So Kuber is the half brother of Ravan. So he stays in Alkapuri and he
Okay.
controls all these Yakshinis. So the thing is, in Hindu mythology, there are 36 Yakshinis exactly in number. It's a fixed
Okay.
number. There are 36 Yakshinis. Each Yakshini is in control of a particular blessing. A blessing. Like there is a Yakshini who can give you beauty, a Yakshini who can give you money, a Yakshini who can give you fame, for Santan Prapti, for intelligence, for everything there is a Yakshini. They are tied and they stay there in Alkapuri. Now what
Yeah.
happens is we humans, some of us humans, who want these things, blessings in their life, they
Hmm.
do this kind of a thing called as a Yakshini sadhana. So this Yakshini
Okay.
sadhana is a very elaborate ritual which has to be done under the sal tree, not people, sorry, sal tree. It's
Okay.
an ashok tree. You do it under, sitting under that, and a very learned pandit has to do it. Now, if
Okay.
this Yakshini sadhana happens in the perfect way, then the chosen Yakshini, the one that you are trying to propitiate, will come
Hmm.
down on earth and it will give you the blessing and
Okay.
she will then go back. Right? But if anything goes wrong with the ritual, it's a very elaborate ritual, so more chances are that things will go wrong. If anything goes wrong,
Yeah.
then instead of giving you that blessing, the Yakshini will turn it into a curse and give it to you. So, that is a chance you have to take. So, Yakshini has both avatars, the good,
Okay.
benevolent avatar also, and
Hmm.
the vengeful, malevolent avatar also. It depends
Hmm.
on how the Yakshini's mood is at that time. Also, the Yakshinis are guardians of Kuber's wealth. We know that Kuber is the overlord
Hmm.
of all the dhan sampatti that is there in this world.
Yeah.
So, Yakshinis are given this, wealth to guard. Now, what
Okay.
Yakshinis do, where do they guard it? Where do they save it? They protect it on earth only. So, on earth, under the roots of these Ashoka and Sal trees, which are very, very
Hmm.
big, fat roots, these
Hmm.
pots of gold are hidden. And the pots of gold are controlled by these Yakshinis only. And only they know the exact trees under which this is hidden. So this all was very fascinating to me. Like a Yakshini comes. It's a very, if you think about it, it's a beautiful concept for a woman-oriented story where I
Hmm.
could have a kind of a woman, or Yakshini is essentially a woman, who is favored till the time you think that you will get something out of her. But the moment that backfires, that Yakshini is then reviled by society. Then society will say, "Ye to chudail hai, ye," whatever, all those things, right?
Yeah.
The kind of mudslinging that goes on. So I wanted to write a story on that. So that is how Yakshini was born. What I have told you is the lore of the Yakshini, which is everywhere. But
Okay.
based on this, I created my fictional story.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that was what it was.
Nice. Okay, so I was reading that the book Pishach, you have shown a love story between a demon and a human lover, like woman. So I really want to know that do you believe that such kind of things really exist, that a demon can actually fall with a woman?
Uh,
Because you know what, through sleep paralysis, I've experienced certain things that are like I can't explain. I've seen, figures and shadows that are trying to lure me and I'm not able to move my body. So I really want to know that does it exist? Demons
okay,
falling in love with, humans and all.
let me explain this in the way I think of it. Okay, so throughout our
Hmm.
history of literature, there have been a lot of love stories in this vein. So Pishach is a story of a human and a demon falling in love. I mean, the a demon wants to possess the human, and but if you go back, right, and think about it, what was Dracula after all? Even Dracula was the same thing.
Huh.
Dracula is a vampire who loves this woman,
Vampire.
Mina Harper, and he goes
Hmm.
to any lengths to, get her, right? So again, Dracula is also the same
Hmm.
thing. What is Beauty and the Beast? If you go to our fairy tales and think about it, and in Beauty and the Beast,
And I was
even the
watching
woman loves the
Twilight.
beast.
Twilight.
Yes, Twilight. That
I
that
was
is now
watching
very.
Twilight Saga. Yeah,
I am taking you to even
exactly.
historical times. So, in Beauty and the Beast, it has
Okay.
been beautifully explained that a woman who is so beautiful, who has everything going for her, sometimes falls in love with the wrong man, and that man can be a beast. Of
Mm.
course, the beast first traps beauty, but then eventually, in the end of the story, when you see beauty actually falls in love with beast. What is the frog prince again? These stories which we read in childhood, a woman falling in love with a frog, is that believable? No.
Mm.
But now let us try to think of these as metaphors. Let us try to think
Okay.
of these as metaphors. All around
Okay.
us, when we talk to people, we come across women who have fallen in love with the wrong man. And
Mm.
it may not be necessarily that the man is a pishach or a beast or Dracula. The man might just be an alcoholic or a wife beater or a homicidal maniac, whatever, we don't know. Right?
Narcissist.
But women do fall in love with the wrong men, and you are the woman here in this discussion. So you can understand that sometimes these emotions are, you cannot disassociate yourself from these emotions, whatever it
Mm.
is. Sometimes people, women do fall. Why women? Even men. It's not a gender related thing. You know that, okay, the other person is wrong for me. There are vices, there are these things, but even then you find yourself falling in love with that person. So that is something that I wanted to say in the book Pishach. Now, because I'm a horror writer, I did not want to write like a woman falling or a criminal trying to chase a woman, because then that would be the rehash of the story Dar Shah Rukh Khan, right?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So that's why I had a Pishach trying to chase a woman, and then finally the woman developing feelings for the Pishach, and stuff happening,
Mm.
which
Mm.
I think it is real life. It is very much real life. What do we do in horror? When we write horror, we just take real life, but the problems that real life that we face in real life, we give them the metaphorical face of a demon
Mm.
or of a
Okay.
beast. And that is how
Mm.
we write. So actually, reading horror, yes, a few days back I was having this discussion with somebody who said horror is a very bad genre. So I told him it's not like that. You are looking at horror in a very wrong way. In fact, if
Mm.
you see, horror is a very cautionary genre. It is the genre that teaches you a lot of things. What we do is
Mm.
we are giving a face, a demonic face, to the problems that already exist in our society.
Exist. Yeah. True.
Yes, because it's always, that will be a hard hitting concept. Like, how did all the scary stories actually begin? When you are a child, all of us, when we were child, our grandparents and our mothers and fathers used to tell us, "Ki don't be out in the night after darkness because that Buddha Baba आएगा बड़ा सा शैतान जैसा दिखने वाला तुम्हें उठा के लेके जाएगा."
Mm. Mm.
So we had these boogeyman stories. It was all
Yeah.
that. Now, does a boogeyman really exist? Later on in life, we understand that there is no boogeyman. There is
Mm.
no demonic feature outside there after 7 o'clock in the evening. But we know that children still should not be out because maybe there is no demon, but there are humans who are like, right?
I would like to quote Shakespeare here. Hell is
Yes,
empty, all the devils are here.
all the devils are here, and I am one of them. So, uh, even men in villages, men were told ki don't go in the jungles at night because in jungles you will find Mohini. Mohini is this, beautiful woman. She will tempt you and then she'll take you somewhere and then you are dead. So
Mm.
once again, this is a kind of a precautionary story, right? That men should not go and chase women in the night. So it is. So you see, horror is nothing but a face of society,
Yeah.
but we are metaphorizing it. So once you start seeing horror in that manner, you understand that it's a beautiful genre, and it has started in our lives already. The moment our Dada Dadis told us the story of the Buddha Baba, horror has started in our lives. There is no escaping it. Is there escaping horror in any way today in our society? Everywhere things are happening.
Yeah.
Nirbhaya happened now. I don't even want to think
Arjikar.
about
Yeah.
it. It is such a horrible situation.
Mm.
No, now you think about it. Yakshini, we were just talking about Yakshini 2 minutes back. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you how the story of Yakshini actually came in my mind. It happened when the first Nirbhaya case took place in Delhi. You know
Okay.
that it really shook me. For many years, that
Mm.
story, I mean, that whole thing, that incidents, and I was reading a lot of articles and reports. That time, internet was not there when the Nirbhaya case
Mm.
happened, or at least
Mm.
I did not have access to it. So at that time, just reading these newspaper reports and all, it really shook me. Then I thought that if that girl, whoever she was unnamed, if that girl, suppose she had the power of a supernatural power inside her to fight
Hmm.
back. The day
Hmm.
that she was raped in the bus, right? Suppose she had a supernatural power, maybe a Devi only, inside her, and that came out and, like took revenge or killed or whatever, all those men who were trying to brutalize her. Suppose that woman survived that day and then she came back to society, right? And she is now this woman who has survived this attempt. She has come back, but all those men are dead. What would society label that woman as? Again,
Hmm.
society, that woman will not have a good life because society will keep chastising her. That ये क्या था तुम्हारे अंदर? तुम चुड़ैल हो? तुमने कैसा मारा इतने सारे लोग? So
Hmm.
again she will be chastised and she will not have that peace of mind ever. So this is where the Yakshini story started in my mind. That suppose there's a woman who has a Yakshini inside her, and whenever a man touches her in the wrong way, the Yakshini
Hmm.
becomes alive, active, and the Yakshini kills slowly. Now the
Okay.
man is dead, but this girl inside whose body that Yakshini is, that girl will not be able to live in society properly because it's a male dominated society. So
True.
men are
Yeah.
going to tell her, put the blame on her.
Hmm.
Victimizing the rape victim is what happens. So
Hmm.
men are going to put the blame on her, and then what happens is my story of Yakshini. That's why I started by saying that Yakshini is a very tragic story. Only people with real guts can read Yakshini, the way the story unfolds. And proving my point, this thing happens in Kolkata. And there is no way that you can think that any human being can do this to another human. Forget the man woman equation. Can a human being do such a thing? What happened to that girl? To
Hmm.
another human being. I mean, I write horror, right? But I can't even
Hmm.
think about giving a slap to somebody. I can't even think about that. Means to hurt to somebody to that extent, I can't even think about that. So how can these monsters of people they can go to this extent?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. That is where horror comes, real horror.
Exactly. And Neil, I strongly believe that if demons and devils exist, I think they would be having better ethos than human beings. What they are doing these days,
Absolutely.
they
Yes,
don't.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have put your finger on the right spot, Mona Lisa. This is what our
Yeah.
demons they can't do. Like all these things, like the way
Hmm.
that it's happening in real life. We
Exactly.
are, see, we know that our motivations. Even in Ramayana, you have so many asuras and all. Even
Hmm.
think about Ravan. Ravan is
Hmm.
considered to be the most villainous of asuras, but he never touched Sita Mata even once.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
He did it for one objective that he wants to, like, avenge the humiliation of Shurpanka. That's why he started in Ramayana.
Hmm.
But when he abducted Sita, and I'm not telling anything is good, I'm not justifying anything, but you know that they also had a morality line that they did not cross,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? And I'm also talking about the other lesser asuras within the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there was
True.
Gandak, there was Marich,
Hmm.
Kumbhakarna, so many of them, but they all had still a morality within them. Which,
Hmm.
and even when in Mahabharata, all the villains they were fighting for dharma. They were not fighting for any other ulterior motive. But we
Hmm.
humans, we have so many agendas going on in our mind,
Yeah.
right? So we are worse than any of the demons in our epics. That is
Exactly.
so true.
And talking about mythology, it's believed that Kalki would come, reincarnation
Yes,
of Vishnu, I guess, and he would destroy, and there would be a judgment day. So, do you really believe
yes.
it will happen, or
That is
I
the
believe humans are only killing each other?
that is the Dasha avatar. So Vishnu का 10वां अवतार जो है वो ही कल्कि होने वाला है, and Kalki is
Hmm.
going to come to Earth, and that would be the end of this yuga as we know it. This entire uh, series cycle of timeline that we
Kali.
are living. But is that going to happen that way? What our scriptures say is that there are 5 yugas, and the fifth yuga is going to be the Kalki Yuga. And when the Kalki Yuga comes, before that is going to be the Kali Yuga. So we are in the Kali Yuga right now. We are moving
Kali.
towards Kali. So in Kali Yuga, the evil will be to such an extent that man will
Hmm.
start killing man. So we are going to do that. and we are going to be blinded by all the negative vices. There will be lust, there will be greed, there will be everything, jealousy, all in
Seven.
our mind will infest us in such a bad way that we are going to turn on each other, which is what is happening. Social media is one thing that's making that happen. The
Hmm.
internet is
Hmm.
actually doing that. Go to Twitter and read the comments on any post. There is so much hate. People who have
Hmm.
no faces, who have, they don't even put their real names, but you put any comment and you will see all the hate comments that you will get in the worst words possible, right? So you are going to get all that.
Yeah.
This, this is humans turning on each other, right? The internet is making that happen. So this is where they say that the Kalki Yuga is going to start. When this reaches an extent, when there is no redeeming factor, no going back to goodness, that is when. And Mona Lisa, this is not just in Hinduism. This is in every culture. Even in Christianity, we have the Judgment Day. We call it as the Apocalypse, the Judgment Day,
Oh.
and that is
Hmm.
we don't believe in rebirth. Like there is no reincarnation of souls. So once you're dead,
Hmm.
the souls are just there in purgatory. They are just in limbo, we say. But when the Judgment Day comes, that is the day when God will come again on earth and in the form of Jesus, and that time the good souls and the bad souls will be separated, and the good ones will go to heaven, bad ones. If you talk about Hellenic mythology, that is Greece. Again, there is this whole story about the river Styx. So when you die, your souls are again in limbo, and
Okay.
a three-headed dog comes, and the
Okay.
three-headed dog, whose name is Cerberus, he will come in a boat, and there is this deep and dark river called as the river Styx. So the dead souls are made to sit in the boat, all the dead souls. They sit in the boat, okay, and the boat rows from one side to the other. Cerberus rows it, right? Now, if you are a good soul, then you will reach the other side, which is called paradise. But if you are a bad soul, then your soul will go inside that river, and then that is hell. The depth of it is hell. So, these kinds of stories and yes, as the apocalypse comes closer, as the end of the world comes closer, the proportion of people reaching the other side, that is heaven, becomes less and less. And everybody will go downstairs, that is hell. So, yes, this exists everywhere in different forms, but all cultures teach us the same.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Every culture believes it. So I have another interesting segment for you, Neil. That's called rapid fire. I'm going to ask you some funny questions,
Okay.
quirky ones, and you will have to
Okay.
answer them quickly.
All right,
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay. So for the first one is, which urban legend fascinates you the most?
Which legend?
Urban legend.
Urban legend. Okay. Maybe the Teen Mundi Chudel because I wrote a book on that.
Nice.
You, yeah.
No, I'm
Because
not
this is
aware of
rapid
that.
fire. Okay, this is rapid fire. I'm supposed to keep my answer short, but since you don't know, the Teen Mundi Chudel
Yeah.
was a three-headed witch, and this was a legend that started in Mumbai in 1996. So it was believed that एक तीन मुंडी वाली चुड़ैल घूमती है रास्तों पे और after 7 o'clock she
Okay.
comes out, and if anybody is out, especially male, then the teen mundi chudel will
Hmm.
follow him to the house and then kill everybody in the house. So the men were so terrified that I'll tell you seriously, in 1996, nobody would stay out after 7 o'clock. Mumbai used to become deserted, and everybody would be in the house, and anybody comes to the house also, they would not open the door. So this Teen
Really?
Mundi, yeah, it was an
Wow.
urban legend, and it stayed on for a few weeks, and then it slowly disappeared and it went. In Delhi, there was this similar legend called as the Monkey Man.
Huh,
A few
Monkey Man I've heard.
Monkey Man was in
And there's
Delhi. So
Naleba also in south
Naleda was in
somewhere.
Bangalore. Yeah, Naleda on which
Bangalore, yeah.
movie Three is
More
based.
like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the movie Three is based on Naleba. So Naleba was in Bangalore. So that was
Okay.
around 2000, I suppose. So around that period, a lot of urban legends came into India. And but the Teen Mundi Chudel was the most interesting one. Then when I was in college, I think there was this one more legend of the Bloody Mary. So that was a Western
Okay.
legend, but that came into India. That Bloody Mary, if you stand in front of a mirror and you say
You have to
Bloody Mary twice,
three
three
times.
times, if you say Bloody Mary, then Bloody Mary will actually come and she will kill you. So fantastic legend, but nothing as in society, nothing created as much paranoia as the Teen Mundika legend.
Okay. So the next is, what is your favorite horror book?
My favorite horror book is anything written by Edgar Allan Poe, and I vouch by
Oh, I'm
Edgar
a
Allan
big fan
Poe.
of it.
Yes, because
Okay.
his Gothic literature is what inspired me to write, and I tried to do that, but I'll never reach his uh,
Yeah, I
the
think
way
his
that.
Macabre is another level.
Correct, absolutely. And this, the one of the first stories that I read in horror was The Telltale Heart. Uh,
Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe's very famous short story about. It's about
Mhm.
guilt. It's about guilt and regret. So when I read that story, I was so affected by it that I wanted to write something like that of my own. And I was in just grade 6 or 7 or something like that. So that is where actually I took a pen and started writing. So that story,
Horror.
it really was my first big inspiration to write. So yes, definitely. Of course, I've read thousands of books after that, but the way that I was affected both emotionally as well as creatively by Edgar Allan Poe's books, that's unbeatable.
Interesting. Okay. So, do you have any phobia?
Lots. As a kid, I was scared of almost everything. And plus, because I was a very imaginative and creative kid, I would amplify the fears in my own head. And I would think and get scared. Yeah, so I was scared of the loneliness. I was scared of cockroaches. I was scared of people who died in my society. I would not go out of the house after that, thinking that their ghost will be somewhere. So, and yes, my biggest phobia as a kid was that I believed that there was a man who lived in the ceiling of my house, and he's a spirit. And if I'm alone in the room at that time, the man will come down from the ceiling and take me out. Now I don't have
So,
any. Now my only phobias are other
now
human
you're
beings.
giving phobia, yeah, actually, to other readers. Okay. So, your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror, there were several now. What do I enjoy watching The Conjuring because that is what. But I'm a big fan of the Ramsey movies also. So I know that they are like, you know what they are. I don't want to, but I am a big fan of the Ramsey movies because at that time, despite the lack of resources that they had, and despite the fact that nobody was making horror, they still made it and they had a cult following. So of course, they are geniuses of the genre for Indian horror.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. So, would you be able to spend a night alone in a haunted house?
I do that especially, but in a haunted
Okay.
house, I don't know. I do. I've done it in haunted hotels, places like that. But okay, I might. That's something that I have not tried out yet, but I'm sure I'll be able to do it. But you have to give
Have
me
you?
$1 million. You have to give me $1 million at the end of it. It has to be a kind of challenge, spend a night here and win $1 million
Yeah.
in the morning. So if it's a challenge, I'll do it. I'll not do it. I say, Fukkat mein, I'm not doing it.
Okay. So, have you actually seen a ghost?
I have had illusions of them. I would say definitely for sure. But seeing a ghost like uh, I don't know. I had one very positive experience where that might have happened, where I saw my grandfather around 10, 15 years after his death. I saw him at a very important juncture in my life when I was stuck with something, and when that happened, I felt that things solved themselves. So maybe that, but it's all open to interpretation. So I don't want to give a like yes or no kind of situations.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any secret hobby other than writing?
See, it's very public now. I like running, so
Okay.
I like cooking. I,
Oh, that's interesting.
cooking in the sense I don't. I make my own recipes, so that way, and my kids enjoy them. So
So
I
if
cook
you
almost
have to,
everything.
Neil, if you have to come up with a recipe book in a horror way, I think that will be something
Yeah,
interesting.
that
You
would be
should do
something
something.
nice, Halloween themed stuff. So yeah, so that's what I do, and most of my food. I mean, my kids love it, so that's the biggest certificate that I can. That okay, I'm not bad as a cook.
Okay. And the last one is, do you have a nickname?
My name is already so short.
Okay.
I did not actually. People, I don't know. No nicknames right now that anybody
Like
calls me.
parents used to call you something. a pet name or
My
something?
parents, everybody used to call me by my name only. Even my wife, she calls me by my
Yeah.
name only. So it's my, because it's such a short name, right? You don't need to
Yeah,
shorten
yeah,
it. So that's,
exactly.
yeah, no nicknames. But I would like to have tags, like, the greatest horror author of India, something like that.
I think that is already added to your profile.
No, no, I don't deserve
And
it. I have to work so much
that's
for it.
really
People are
commendable,
like,
and hats off to the books you have written. I
there are
think
so many
dozen
family
books
members
now
all
in.
around us, Mona Lisa. You cannot just put this tag on somebody so lightly. I have to actually earn it. I have to deserve it, and then I'll say that okay, I'm there. It's still a long journey.
That's being modest of you, but I would still say that it's really commendable writing 12 books and horror genre back to back, giving scares and chills to readers. Amazing.
I was so scared as a kid that I now want to scare everybody else. I'm taking my badla.
खुद अकेले क्यों डरना बाटो. So I'm really, really, had lots of fun, and I one last question I want to know that what is sleep paralysis?
Sleep paralysis, I was a sufferer of it. I'll keep this short. It started when I was in my 20s. So I used to, at that time, teach. I was a teacher. I had a coaching institute of my own. And in the afternoons, when I used to come back home for a small kind of a nap, short nap after my lunch, during that time, the sleep paralysis thing started happening. So when I was on the court, I would wake up, right? So my consciousness would be awake. I could see my parents moving about in the house and everything, but I would not be able to move anything, not even a finger. I was completely like paralyzed. That's why the term, right? So, and this would only happen when I was lying on my back, right?
Okay.
I could see everything also. Even though my eyes were closed, I could see the ceiling and all, but I could not move. And at those times, sometimes it was so intense that I would feel that mar gaya main to, I'm dead. This is my dead body lying, and this is my atma. How they show in Hollywood movies, now that atma can see everything, but you cannot move your body. That kind of
Okay.
feeling exactly. And I would try to shout, "Papa, Mama," but no voice would
Nothing
come out
came
of
up.
it. I mean, even your tongue would not move. And this would last for a few seconds, and then suddenly everything opens up, right? And then you move. Now, the intensity of this used to differ. So, on some occasions, it would be just 10-15 seconds, and then you are awake again. Sometimes it would be slightly longer. Sometimes you would feel somebody sitting on your chest.
Hmm.
It would be so bad. A kind of
Hmm.
a demonic entity, black
Yeah,
all
yeah.
sitting on your chest. And one time, the limit happened. So once when I was like this only the sleep paralysis episode was going on, and I was trying to shout out at others, but nobody was. Of course, the voice would not come out. At that time, I felt myself floating, like I am released from the body, from that whole bondage, and I am floating. I go up, up, up like this, like a balloon, and I go to the ceiling, and that is where I just stay, right? And from there, I'm turning and looking down. I can see my own body on the bed. So I am up also, I'm down also, right? I can see my own body. And this was my sleep paralysis. And in that, I had this out of body experience. And I could actually see something on my chest, something moving like a tornado kind of thing, small whirlwind, right? Whirlpool. So this is what I saw. And then immediately it ended, and I was united with my body again. And the episode was over. So this was way back in the 90s, like early 2000s, when there was no internet, there was nothing where I could research. I told my parents, but they also did not like. Nobody knew about sleep paralysis. Later on,
Yeah.
when internet came, I did research and all. So what I found out was this happens because I was getting very tired at those in those days because I used to teach back to back lectures. So it happens when your body is very tired, so your mind wakes up. Your mind tells that okay, it is 3 o'clock, you have to go back to your classes and all. But your body is so tired that it still wants to sleep and it does not respond to your brain's impulse. So that is when sleep paralysis occurs. It is just a miscommunication of your mind and body. So that's it. So I think I overcame it. Now sleep paralysis does not happen. Only very rare occasions, sometimes it might still happen, but that is because maybe because I took up running and I have become such a fit person that now my sleep is completely uninterrupted. Like for example, if I go to bed, like I can fall asleep within 3 minutes. So I
Okay.
know tossing and turning like it used to happen before. Within 3 minutes, I'm out, and at
Hmm.
exactly 4:20, at exactly 4:20, I keep my alarm for getting up in the morning for my everyday run. Exactly a few minutes before 4:20, my eyes will open, and when my eyes open in the morning, I am completely refreshed. When
Hmm.
other people, when they wake up, even I, when I used to wake up before, your eyes will wake up, but you don't want to get out of bed. You still want to just lie. But
Hmm.
not like that. I will be like if 4:19 my eyes open, at 4:19 only I'm sitting up and I'm already moving. So that is the way my sleep has become very perfect, and sleep paralysis has thankfully ended for me. It was a very scary experience when it went off.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for enlightening me. And I think it will help many other people also who experience sleep paralysis, because I have also overcome it. I'll tell you later how and what happened. So I really enjoyed talking to you, Neil. It was really lovely to know your journey and also the way how you process things, how you write. I felt really amazing today. Thank you for joining the talk
Thank
show
you so
today.
much. And your questions were on point, so of course you could bring the best out of me. Thanks so much for moderating this so well, being so receptive to my stupid answers. It was a fun event. Let's hope to do it again sometime. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
and all the best to all your audience. Also, please do read horror. Please do read our books and then leave reviews behind because we authors live for that. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Absolutely. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Neil.
Yeah,
Have a good
bye.
night.
You too.
So I was talking to India's most acclaimed horror writer, Neil De Silva. His books are available on Amazon and also on his website. Go and read them, and we should support Indian authors. So this is all the journey is about. I had a great time. We talked about demons, Yakshinis, devils, and also humans as demons, how they are bringing up atrocities on women. So that's the saddest part, and the most wonderful thing that Neil said, that his horror is actually faced to only those atrocities and all the evil that's happening in the world. So read his books and support him as a writer as well, and also follow my talk show page that's on Facebook, and the video will be soon out on YouTube and Spotify. Bye. Have a great time.